hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on the description at the bottom to make sure that you put on our mailing list so that you don't miss anything. Because, believe it or not, our show has now been demonetized on YouTube. Don't know why. Maybe because I said the wrong thing about the 2020 election, or maybe the wrong thing about the 2016 election, which I'm going to come to in a minute. Or maybe I said the wrong things about skepticism about whether or not we ought to lock down the economy because of COVID. I don't know. Or maybe it's because I'm the black face of white supremacy. All I know is that our YouTube channel has been demonetized. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of our videos, hit that link below and make sure you are put on our mailing list to make sure that you are apprised of all of our videos. Just now, Donald Trump has announced filing a $475 million defamation lawsuit against CNN. The lawsuit makes a number of allegations. One of them is that Donald Trump was accused of pushing the big lie about 2020. And CNN said nothing at all about people who were Democrats pushing the big lie about 2016, or Stacey Abrams pushing the big lie about her 2018 election, or Jimmy Carter saying that Donald Trump was put there because of the Russians. And it also mentioned that in the lawsuit that Donald Trump has been compared repeatedly to Nazis, to Hitler. We're going to talk about the lawsuit, 29 pages lawsuit, which I went over, so you don't have to. Maybe someday they'll make a movie out of it. But first, in reading the lawsuit, there are at least three things, in my opinion, that Donald Trump should have included in his lawsuit against CNN. Number one is this assertion that you hear over and over and over again on shows like CNN, cable networks like CNN, that Donald Trump said there were good Nazis and bad Nazis on both sides in Charlottesville. Watch this.
And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Okay? Joe Biden to this day still says, I'll tell you what, I wasn't even sure I wanted to run for office. And not a joke, not a joke, not a joke. Why does he keep saying that? Not a joke. No one's laughing. We don't think it's a joke. Not a joke, not a joke, not a joke. And then that guy, I don't even say Trump's name because that's four-letter word. That guy that came before me, what's his name? His name is Donald Trump, Joe. Or maybe it's just that Joe can't remember his name. And he says, and that guy, what did he say? There were tiki torches, not just torches, tiki torches. And their eyes bulging and veins bulging and smoke coming out of their mouths. And what did they say? What did that guy say? He said there were good Nazis and bad Nazis on both sides. And that's when I decided that I had to run, says Joe Biden. Again, one more time, Trump specifically said in that press conference, and I'm not talking about the white nationalists and the neo-Nazis because they should be condemned totally. Let's do that again.
And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
So, there are two hosts on CNN. One of them is named Jake Tapper. And Jake Tapper has a daily show. And even Jake Tapper, about a year and a half after this Charlottesville press conference, said, I went back and looked at it, and Donald Trump was not talking about that. He was talking about there are good people and bad people on both sides as to the issue of whether or not there ought to be a Confederate statue in the public square.
Now, elsewhere in those remarks, the president did condemn neo-Nazis and white supremacists. So he's not saying that the neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people, but he is saying people protesting alongside those neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people.
Well, duh, Jake Tapper. How many years have we been saying this? And there's a weekend host named Michael Smerconish, who used to be, by the way, a Republican, became a Democrat, but he's not an idiot. And he has a radio show. And in his radio show, he said, I went back and I looked at the film. Actually, he said I Zaprudered the film, a reference a lot of people might not know. Zapruder is the guy that filmed the Kennedy assassination. And he said, and to a caller, I think you're right. He was not talking about that. He was talking about whether or not there ought to be a Confederate monument in public square.
Within the last 10 days, I know that I made reference to those words from the president, and I had a phone caller who called and said that is not what the president said.
By the way, this is well after the president said this, a year later. So it took him a year to go back and look at the tape.
Now, having invested the time to go back and Zapruder the tape, I think the caller's right, and I think you're right. I think it's true. He'd have done himself a favor if he had verbalized it the way you have with the words monument debate.
Okay, so that was not included in the lawsuit. That pundits, hosts, guests on CNN, both before Jake Tapper and Michael McConnell acknowledged that Trump was talking about the issue of whether or not there ought to be a Confederate monument in public square, and after. You would have thought that after they both said it, when someone else came on, like Biden or somebody else, and said, Donald Trump said there were good Nazis and bad Nazis on both sides. Somebody at CNN would have said, I got a couple of colleagues here, Jake Tapper down the hall and Michael McConnell, who comes in on the weekends. And both of them have acknowledged that Donald Trump did not say that. They still let it go. So that, in my opinion, should have been part of this lawsuit. With the consumer price index increasing yet again, the stock market has been topsy-turvy. And what's our illustrious leader doing to quell the surge of inflation that's destroying American families? Oh yeah, spending more money and adding to the burden. Don't bury your head in the sand while your savings get decimated. Do something about it. Visit LarryForGold.com. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on protecting your savings with gold and a tax-sheltered account. These are great people with almost 20 years experience converting IRAs and 401ks into precious metals IRAs. Don't allow the left to devalue your savings. Visit LarryForGold.com and claim your free, no-obligation info kit from Birch Gold. Again, you can own physical gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account, and Birch Gold will help you do it. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and thousands of satisfied customers. Check them out right now. Visit LarryForGold.com and secure your future with gold. Do it today. The other part that should have been of the lawsuit is this business that Donald Trump told people in order to deal with COVID to drink bleach.
President Trump says he created the vaccines and he deserves credit for that.
Well, you know what? He did. He did launch a program that was very
Operation Warp Speed.
And you know what? If he'd had a professional, acceptable response to the rest of the pandemic, not telling people to drink bleach and the other stuff that he did.
And this is on CBS, not CNN, but it wouldn't take much sweat to find a number of examples on CNN where somebody said, either a guest or a pundit or somebody, that Donald Trump said drink bleach. He did not say drink bleach. Even one of the left-wing fact checkers said he never said drink bleach. USA Today, which is not exactly a right-wing rag, said that he never said drink bleach. That should have been part of the lawsuit. The other part that was not in the lawsuit is that in 2016, a poll found, this was before the election, that among likely voters, the number one reason likely voters gave for disliking Donald Trump is that he mocked a disabled reporter.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
And of course, Donald Trump did not mock a disabled reporter. What he mocked was this reporter, whose name was Serge Kovaleski. He mocked the fact that the reporter retreated from the story. Donald Trump said that on 9/11, there were people celebrating the fall of the Twin Towers. And because Donald Trump is Donald Trump, everything he says gets fact-checked. So a bunch of reporters went around and tried to fact-check whether or not somebody had cheered the fall of the wall, of the towers. And they couldn't find it right away. So Donald Trump produced an article written by this guy who said that he saw this. And they rushed to find the guy and they said, "Did you say this? Did you say this? Did you say this?" He goes, "Well, I'm not sure I said it. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I don't know." And the man does have a disability. It's got some long name. He has an arm that's somewhat atrophied. He doesn't go like this when he speaks. And there's a website called Catholics for Trump. And has several videos where Donald Trump is using this gesture to mock himself, to mock an able-bodied general, to mock other people. The man is a stand-up comic. He uses that gesture to mock a lot of people. What he was mocking was the reporter's retreat from the story. He did not mock a disabled reporter. Yet that's in the air. Just as Donald Trump said, drink bleach is in the air, just as Donald Trump allegedly said there were good Nazis and bad Nazis on both sides, is in the air. And CNN has allowed all of that, in my opinion, that should have been included in the lawsuit. Will the lawsuit prevail? Well, the problem is when you are accused of defaming a public figure like Donald Trump, you have to show malice, which is recklessness, disregard of the truth. And it's going to be hard for him to prove that, but who knows? Now, the complaint, as I mentioned, is 29 pages. Let's go over some of the things he says in the complaint. And I want to do a little back patting of myself here. For years, I've been writing about the hypocrisy on the part of the left, that people like Hillary claiming that the election was stolen and Donald Trump's illegitimate, that people like Stacey Abrams claims that she lost her election because of voter suppression, even though a fact-check organization found no evidence of that. Benny Thompson, the January 6th committee chair, first week of January 2005, when they were all gathering in Washington, D.C. to certify the victory of George W. Bush 2004. First week of January 2005, he joined, Benny Thompson did, 30 other Democrats, and Senator Barbara Boxer, filing an objection to the certification of the electors for Ohio, claiming, among other things, that the Diebold voting machine had been manipulated in order for George W. Bush to get reelected. No evidence of that. John Lewis, the man who marched the MLK, one of the most respected men in Congress, the late John Lewis, refused to attend Donald Trump's inauguration because he felt the election was stolen. By the way, 25% of the Democrat congressional delegation refused to attend the inauguration because they felt the election was stolen. This is before Donald Trump made the phone call to Ukraine, before Donald Trump was impeached over what happened on January 6th. A quarter, 1 in 4 of the Democrat congressional delegation refused to go to the inauguration of Donald Trump in January 2017 because they felt the election was stolen. Yet, for some reason, nobody seemed to call them election deniers. I mention that because virtually every example I've given you is in this lawsuit. It also says that CNN painted plaintiff Donald Trump with a series of, quote, ever more scandalous, false, and defamatory labels. Racist, Russian lackey, insurrectionist, ultimately Hitler. It also says that CNN is the most trusted name in news. Referred to Donald Trump as a cult leader, dog whistler to white supremacists, likened him to Hitler to Nazism. And it specifically mentioned a January 9, 2022 CNN special report called The Fight to Save Democracy by CNN anchor Fareed Zakaria. I'm digressing. Do you know who has been accused several times of plagiarism? Not just Joe Biden. Fareed Zakaria. Google Fareed Zakaria and plagiarism and stand back. And yet somehow he survived all of that, but I digress. Zakaria says in his program, democracy everywhere is under attack. Remember, America has been here before. America has vanquished demagogues before. So how do we do it now? And there's a picture, of course, of you-know-who referring to Donald Trump as a Hitler-like demagogue. Fareed also says this: a similarity between Hitler in the 1930s, Germany, and Trump in 2016 are notorious. And the way you made the argument by on and off alternate images of both made it very apparent, said somebody tweeting after they saw the program by Zakaria. This person tweeted again, the similarity between Hitler in the 1930s Germany and Trump in 2016 are notorious. And the way you made the segment by on and off alternate images of both, even if not apparent before, you made it apparent now, close quote, said this tweet by this guy who saw the Fareed Zakaria special. So Donald Trump included that in the lawsuit, pointing out that this is the effect this kind of dangerous rhetoric has had on how people perceive Donald Trump. Then they talk about a program called Reliable Sources, hosted by then anchor Brian Stelter, who's since been dismissed. He had an interview with a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist, whose name is Alan Francis, said, quote, Trump is as destructive a person in this century as Hitler, Stalin, and Mao were in the last century. Let's see, Hitler killed 11 million people, was behind a war that ultimately killed 50 million people nationwide. I don't know how many people Donald Trump has killed, but I think it's probably not very much north of 0. Stalin might have more blood on his hands than even Mao, hard to say. And of course, Mao, tens of millions of people murdered. And Donald Trump has been routinely compared to Hitler, Stalin, and Mao on CNN. That's part of the lawsuit. By the way, PolitiFact, which is a left-wing website, rated the psychiatrist's statements regarding Donald Trump as a pants-on-fire rating, meaning worst untruth you can get. Then there was a March 2019 CNN broadcast, headline, Top House Democrats compare Trump's rise to Hitler's. Real subtle. July 17, 2021, Jim Acosta, host of CNN's Newsroom, quote, when we have entered the realm of coup and Hitler, we have to pause, end of quote. Then it talks about how many times CNN has used the term big lie to compare Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. And it says that they use the expression over 7,000 times. It even points out in the lawsuit that the new chairman and CEO of CNN, his name is Chris Licht, L-I-C-H-T, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, reportedly held a conference with his top CNN producers and expressed displeasure over the use of the term the big lie. Basically asked them to discontinue using it. Since then, however, Jake Tapper, John King, John Avlon, Breonna Keeler, and Don Lemon, among others, have continued to use the phrase even though their boss told them to discontinue using it. CNN published an article written by Chris Cillizza. That's the CNN politics editor-in-large. By the way, I've talked about Mr. Cillizza. He had a piece where he said that 76% of Republicans believe there was, quote, widespread voter fraud, close quote, in the 2020 election, and talked about how when a large number of Americans believe something like that, it undermines the integrity of our republic. And I pointed out 78% of Democrats, according to Gallup in 2018, believe that the Russian interference altered the outcome of the election. So a greater percentage of Democrats believe 2016 was stolen than Republicans feel the same way about 2020. None dare call that hypocrisy. And I pointed out that a YouGov poll, also 2018, found that a supermajority, 66% of Democrats believe the Russians changed vote tallies in order for Donald Trump to win the election. Never mind that Jay Johnson, Obama's Secretary of Homeland Security, testified under oath. The Russians tried. Not a single vote tally was changed. Yet a supermajority of Democrats believe that vote tallies were in fact changed to achieve the Russians' desired result. Now, in this article written by Chris Cillizza, he compares Trump once again to Joseph Goebbels. Quote, one can only hope that Trump was unaware that his quote was a near replication of the infamous line from Nazi Joseph Goebbels. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. End of quote, said Chris Cillizza, the CNN politics editor. And finally, the lawsuit points out all these Democrat election deniers that go on CNN and get a pass. Whether it's Stacey Abrams, who still claims that the election was stolen, whether it's Hillary Clinton, whether it's Jimmy Carter. Listen to some of these Democrat election deniers. Hope you enjoyed that video. The full show is available to watch right now on Epoch TV. Just click the link in the description below to learn more, because we've got a country to save.